Thanks for joining our live broadcast today about tax attorneys and the benefits of hiring an attorney that specializes in a field that you need. Sort of like you wouldn't hire a brain surgeon to do your knee replacement.
Right.
I'm joined by Anthony Parent, one of the founding partners here at Parent & Parent LLP, the IRS medic. And we want to start, I think you have a couple good stories about misconceptions.
Yeah, I was, tax law was something I was thinking about doing when I was in law school. But I thought, all you're doing is basically, doing some magic wand stuff so that rich people don't have to pay taxes. And so there's a few areas there that one of them, I didn't see the merit in rich people not paying taxes. Now I do. And second of all, there isn't really this magic wand. The truth is tax law isn't what it is made out to be, even though it doesn't come up too much in popular culture. And I would say things like in the movie, The Producer, the show, the Broadway show, The Producer. Hey, we'll actually make money if we show a loss. No, it doesn't work that way. Trust me. No. You'll actually lose money. The truth is that tax law, and from my perspective, doesn't really involve that much planning. It's more about fixing problems that are in existence, because this is the misconception people have, that the tax law goes to immediately the most complicated thing, and it can get complicated in cases that you're not expecting it. But in a lot of big cases, things aren't that complicated. There's just really a lack of control. One of the things that you're not really expecting in life is that brilliant people, successful people, famous people, with great employees who are loved, and everybody loves them, they're very ignorant about the tax law because they don't want to know about it.
Who wants to?
Who wants to know about it?
We do, but
right. And
we're
it's
weird.
So easy to ignore it. And, the first advisor they hire is, likely somebody they know. Hey, I met him at a bar. I met him here. Was recommended to a friend. But their needs were much, much greater, but they didn't know who else to go to. And the person they knew was trying their best.
And another misconception in that statement is that it's rich people that we're dealing with, or famous people. We're dealing with common folk who have made errors. Right,
and that's where tax problems affect anybody who makes income. And that's one of the other things that I've learned over the years. We really run the gamut of the continuum of income. We really have clients from every tax bracket.
Yes, and now we have common people, but we also have people like attorneys that we represent.
Yes, and that was, going to law school was one of the best networking I've ever done for tax lawyers. The attorneys, I represent my classmates.
Yep.
And by the way, it's just not unique to Quinnipiac. Okay, every law school has clients, or not has tax clients.
Yeah. So we represent really smart people.
Really smart people. There's just this one area of law that, maybe they tried to, but they just didn't get the help because it's kind of hard to find the right help too.
Yep. All right. Now, what about tax attorney traps?
I would say this: when we're taking over a case for somebody and they hired an attorney before, I could, basically tell you what I'm going to see. Where they did hire a tax attorney, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to see way too much over-lawyering. When there's communication between the IRS, it's written like a lawyer, like we were doing civil litigation.
Okay.
I used to do civil litigation, a little bit of it, over 10 years ago, and it's really something I don't do it anymore. I don't want to know it. I don't do it, so I'm really not that good at it. I was in a deposition last week, and I realized, wow, I used to do depositions, but this is, if you don't use it, you lose it. And this was, I couldn't do it.
Not like riding a bike.
Right. If somebody said, hey, Anthony, could you fill in a deposition in a pinch? I would have thought my answer would have been yes. Now I'm like, no, why don't you get somebody else? I really don't think that's a good idea.
Yep.
And civil litigation is... you're using the process to try to make the opposition succumb to a more favorable deal.
The IRS does not succumb.
Right, and that's where, and I see these things where you're trying to overwhelm the IRS with your lawyerly BS. And they'll write briefs as if they're writing for the court, very formal. Here's the attachments, and when you're looking for it, it's like, really, no, here, this right here. Here's the two sentences that actually matter, and now point to this. That was what this is all about.
And the IRS employees have told us they don't like reading those.
They don't like reading them because they're like, what kind of trick are you trying to pull on me? That's what they're looking. They're like, they don't trust us. This is written like it's written by an attorney. Guess what? Attorneys aren't that credible. You want to get a little bit more to the point and not try to push anybody around by impressing them that you're a lawyer. Look, I don't know how many lawyers are there in the U.S. I don't know, 300,000. You're not that special. Don't try to push them around, because here's the thing too. It makes you look like you're trying to bully the IRS employee.
Yes.
And even their supervisor probably won't be an attorney. Some of them are. But there will be IRS attorneys above them. And if they think you're being a jerk, well, now you have somebody with fairly unlimited resources, or a hell of a lot more resources than you, that you've made an enemy out of. And now you have this lawyerly brief that's going to be used to just hang you, that just doesn't get the point done. And there's a reason why decisions happen the way they are. And a lot of times there was things people could have done so that they didn't come off, they got their point across.
So now you've been doing this for over 10 years. So what advice do you have for, say, budding tax attorneys?
For a budding tax attorney, don't bluster. Don't think, it's being relaxed and being human. There's not this thing where you have to, negotiations with the IRS are not an aggressive thing where you're yelling and screaming. I can count the times I got upset twice. One of them was I was put on hold and was hung up on, so the IRS never knew that I threw the phone at the receiver. And that's really about it. You never really want to lose your cool, even when they're doing everything wrong.
Yep.
You want to get your point across, and you want to write and speak clinically. That's really the best way to do it when it's called for. And then sometimes a little personal touch can go a long way.
Yep.
And don't be rude. Don't be rude. Don't be rude.
No.
There's no need for that, because again, there's going to be somebody above them who can kind of make or break you, or at least break your client, because now you've created a battle for your client that your client's going to have to pay for.
You've made it emotional.
Right. And you've made it personal.
Right.
So you could be polite and disagree. And, honestly, politeness makes you more credible.
Yes. Now, also, sometimes the IRS, they do know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Because they have a fact, or there's something that you're not aware of.
Yes.
That you're going on and you're saying, the IRS is dead wrong about this. How could they do this? How could they do this? And during their conversation, they bring up a point. Well, we have this here. And now you're thinking to yourself, oh boy, oh man, that's not a good fact. So, what I like to do, usually in a situation like that, I'll say, that's a really good point.
Wow, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
Didn't know that.
You know what? I'm not going to fight you on that one. It looks like you got, pretty solid. But just one question for you. What kind of facts would lead you to the opposite conclusion where you've seen this work? Now, that's a really effective way, because IRS employees love talking about what they do. Everybody loves talking about what they do. But who can they talk to it about, right?
It's true.
Their spouse isn't going to hear it. Their friends are, and if they have friends.
You want to talk about the IRM, baby?
Right. But now they have like somebody, they want to talk shop.
Yep.
They really do. People love talking shop, and that's what you want to get to when they're talking shop, because, okay, maybe this is something, maybe there's something you could find your own client here, help them. But, when you're sort of running a practice like a clinic, well, maybe it will help out another client. Yep. To say, it's someone else. And that's what we try to do as we're doing research, is we're trying to get the IRS to open up. And really, I would say probably the best tips I've learned and strategies I've learned have come from the mouth of IRS employees.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing is something we actually tell our clients as well.
Yeah.
You have to meet your deadlines.
Yeah.
The IRS doesn't screw around. A day late that's it.
Yeah, they're getting the pressure to close out their case, and you can get, there's some understanding. There is some understanding, but at some point, they're going to lose their patience, and bad things are going to happen. Here's the difficulty, is that a lot of times the attorney is not communicating with client, doesn't want to push the client, and the IRS employees say, okay, you better do this or else, and the client doesn't understand the importance of it. So make sure your client knows, look, bad things are going to happen if you don't do this, and you have to, sometimes fear is a very good motivator.
Yep. Now, in tax law, there's a ton of information. You're never going to know everything.
That's right.
But there's a couple really good resources for learning.
Yeah.
And they are Form Instructions and the IRM, the Internal Revenue Manual.
That's right. So
And they're actually interesting.
they can be. They
Yeah.
can really, and it's more interesting when you have a client with an issue. And I would say this is really, the best way to learn something is when you have a real life example.
Yes.
And now because now you're so much more interested in finding that little nugget that's going to help out your client.
We literally just had Attorney Hansen come down. He had a question for you. And yeah, I mean, if you had read what you read to me before, I would have been like, well, that's boring. But you can put the answer in context to our client. Oh, wow, that makes sense.
Right.
That's a great answer.
And so when you have those issues come up, make sure you go to read the instructions, because there's going to be something and it will point you, and it's going to point you to, it might point you to something, and it might give you a way to think of a strategy to really help out your client. And the other, another one is reading the Internal Revenue Manual. If you work at the IRS, you don't have time to do that. So you can kind of have the upper hand. If you are if you read the, for instance, we're dealing with FBAR penalties, and there's a whole IRM section on FBAR penalties, and I've read through the whole thing line by line by line, and there's been changes to it. And as Attorney Hansen was reading through it too, and we saw the IRS was using the wrong mitigation guideline. And we saved our client $190,000 by just like, oh no, you're looking at the old one. Here's the new one.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's cool.
because they don't have time. So just reading it, and you'll find out a lot of things. And that's like, you're not just going to help one client, but you're going to help the rest of your clients.
I think the next is really important. And I think it's one of the reasons that we're so successful here with, we have 4 or 5 attorneys, and you would think that maybe some ego would get in the way, but no, there's no ego here.
That's right.
You can't think that you know everything.
That's right. There is, one of our favorite items of discussions is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
And that's which states as your level of knowledge gets greater, your circumference of ignorance becomes greater too. Whereas if people don't know a lot, think they know a lot. And as you get to know more, you start worrying like, I don't think actually I know a lot. Now I'm not sure where I am because I don't want to, but I would say this, it seems far too often that, I've been doing this for 10 years. It seems far too often that I learn something big about the tax code. Then I'll say, wait, what are you talking about? Whether it be a tax credit, whether it be applying how to apply old liabilities. And that's really that's why you don't want to have those egos. Because if you're going around pointing yourself as the expert who knows everything, there's no way. This is unlike any other area of law. Other areas of law, can you basically know it all? Yeah, if you're doing family law in a state, it's only that state family law that applies, and maybe you could find some analogies to put into that. But there's more of a limit here. The tax code is sort of just goes out into infinity. It really, it sort of does.
Yep.
When you think about it, you think about all the tax court opinions, you think of all the private letter rulings, how big the IRM is, all the regulations. It really goes on forever and ever, and then you get to some questions where there really is not an answer. There really isn't an answer, and you're saying, well, how do I do this? And you can't get any guidance from anybody. So that is why you want to keep your ego, because you're going to learn the best things from your peers and from the IRS.
Yep. And, talking about ego, I think is really important with the next point is your clients are coming to you for help. And we've had clients come in, and one guy said, my CPA just said to me, well, why don't you just pay your taxes?
Oh, right, yeah.
You want to put the ego aside and put yourself in your client's shoes and have some empathy.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important points.
And I would say this is sort of the way I think about it, is that, your clients are the ones, first of all, they're the ones paying for you. So knock it off. Second of all, tax law is really bizarre. This is so bizarre. And we're the bizarre ones for knowing it.
Yeah.
We're the bizarre ones for understanding it. We're really strange people for living, working it, and knowing how to work around it. A client is not the weird one for wanting to have nothing to do with it.
Tax law? Oh.
Yeah, that's a normal reaction to want to run away from this as fast as you can. So that's what no one wants to do this.
No.
And so you have to, and that's a natural human reaction. So that's what we try to work with and say, yeah, I know you don't want to do this, but this is in your best interest.
We'll do it for you.
There you go.
All right. Well, if you need any assistance, don't hesitate to contact us. It is 888-727-8796. You can email us info@irsmedic.com. Any information you share with us is subject to the attorney-client privilege. You can like and comment below and subscribe to our channel, and we want to thank you for watching this live event. IRS Medic, the law offices of Parent & Parent, LLP. Real tax attorneys for tough tax problems.